What is up everyone, Boshi here back at it in Raid Shadow Legends, and the Christmas Fusion has been announced, so let's jump into it. Alright guys, so before we go ahead and jump into the fusion and all that great stuff, I do want to mention that we do have that 2x void this Friday, tomorrow, and then we also actually have two other events going on. So the very first one is going to actually start up on Friday as well, and that's going to be a 10x for Urska Warcaller. So that's going to be going for 24 hours, so Friday only, and then on Saturday they're going to run a 10x for Nekrit the Great, and that's also going to be a 24-hour only. So you do have the 2x void throughout the weekend like normal. We just have two other 10x events, I should say, for really good champions, guys. Ursiga is a really great champion for PvP, same thing with Nekrit. So if you are aiming for those, definitely make sure you go on Friday or Saturday and pull your shards accordingly. But yeah, that is it, guys. So we'll go ahead and jump into this champion's kit. Like usual with my reviews, I'm going to go ahead and throw the champion model up on the screen, and then we'll go through the kit together and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Now, do keep in mind this is going to be a traditional fusion, so there are going to be 4 epics and a couple of rares, I'd imagine, with this fusion. Now, we don't have any information on what those champions will be. I'm sure they will come out pretty soon, maybe this weekend or maybe at the very beginning of next week. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the kit right now. Alright guys, so this traditional fusion will be going live on December 16th, which is next Thursday from when this video goes live. Now before we get into the champion and its kit, I do want to mention that they had notes on this when they sent it out, and they did say that this champion was meant to help in PvE content, mainly the Hydra and the Doom Tower. So definitely keep that in mind as we go through the kit, and I'll kind of try to explain where I think it's going to be useful for Hydra and Doom Tower as well. But yeah, let's jump into the champion. So the champion's name is going to be Tatura Rimehide. For the High Elves faction, is going to be a defensive type champion and is going to be the Spirit Affinity. Now right off the bat, looking at the model, I think it looks absolutely amazing. I know a lot of people on social media and stuff have been like, how is this a High Elf? This doesn't look like it fits in the High Elves faction. But in my opinion, I think this fits perfectly, just from playing games like WoW, where I know the High Elves and stuff like that work with mythical creatures, because this could obviously be a pet or a mount, or it could even be a quote-unquote druid, an elf that transformed into a beast. So I think it fits perfectly, but overall the model just looks really good. Now let's go ahead and jump into the kit. So on the A1 we do have Solar Ray. Attacks one enemy, has an 80% chance of placing a big decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns. Now in the notes as well, we do know that this will be able to get booked up to 100% chance to land this decreased accuracy. Now obviously 80% chance is definitely not bad, so I don't think the A1 is going to require books, but having 100% chance to land this major debuff is really good. Obviously this is going to come in handy in the Hydra for certain heads, especially like Head of Mischief. If you're going to be able to land this on the Head of Mischief, could be really cool so he doesn't steal your buffs and all that great stuff. For Doom Tower, I think he actually is going to be a key player within the Bommel fight, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit later down the line as we go through the kit. But yeah, overall I think this is going to be a very solid A1, because decreased accuracy is becoming a bigger deal in endgame content, and to have a consistent ability being able to keep it up is going to be pretty major. Onto the A2, we have Wings of Shelter. Places a block debuffs buff and a big increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. So this is going to be a 5-turn cooldown without books. We're really hoping that they drop this down to 3 turns with books, and unfortunately I'm going to say this ability almost requires books, because a 5-turn cooldown is a very long time. Now when it comes down to the block debuffs, I do think this is a key buff coming into play a lot more often nowadays, and then the increased defense is just a really great thing for survivability, and obviously it's going to help increase his damage since he is a defensive champion. But yeah, overall a very solid A2, very regular buff type of ability. On the A3 we have Otherworld Breach. Attacks all enemies and then places a perfect veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Also places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. And this is also going to be on a 5-turn cooldown when it's not booked. once again, hope it goes down to a 3-turn cooldown. Now, when looking at this ability, it might be a thing where you build this champion as a damage dealer, so you get a big shield out of it, almost kind of like a Sir Nick, where you deal AoE damage and you get a shield depending on the damage that you dealt. So we'll have to see the multipliers on this ability, but yeah. Now, when it comes down to the Perfect Veil portion, this is actually going to be pretty key in the Hydra, as I believe Head of Torment will place a True Fear for people not attacking under a Perfect Veil. So obviously everyone's been working with Inquisitor Shamil, so you might not want to do this, but for people that don't have Inquisitor, and this is going to be a fusion for people to get, Perfect Veil might be the perfect answer for that, and you don't know how it's going to work on higher difficulties of the Hydra as well. So this is going to be an overall good ability or good champion to bring into Hydra. Obviously, the shield buff is going to work very well for him, keeping up survivability and all that type of stuff. And this ability actually works with the passive pretty well, and we'll get into the passive right now. So the passive is going to be Rimehide. So when attacked, reflects 30% of the damage this champion receives back to the attacker, and then also has a 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. So with placing Perfect Veil on the A3, obviously this is going to be the only champion that you can actually target or single target. Obviously AoE hits are going to hit everyone, but Perfect Veil is going to help mitigate that damage for everyone else. But yeah, having him be the single target champion when you have everyone else veiled for Doom Tower waves, or for even Hydra specifically, if you have the Head of Mischief, they might not be able to attack the other champions, might only attack Rimehide. You could reflect that damage back as well with the passive. So overall, I think this is going to be a really good passive to have in combination with the A3, obviously. The freeze ability can come in handy, I think, with Doom Tower waves. Not going to be a huge thing, obviously, in other PvE content, since bosses can't be frozen. Might be a fun thing to mess around with in PvP as well. But yeah, so when I look at this kit, I do think there are some key parts for the Hydra. Obviously, you have the decreased accuracy for specific heads. You have block debuffs, increased defense for survivability, keeping those debuffs off of you. You have the Perfect Veil for, I believe it's a Head of Torment that does the True Fear. And then obviously the reflect damage is going to be nice when you're getting attacked from all the different heads from Hydra. Now when it comes down to Doom Tower, I think Rimehide is actually going to be another key player possibly for the Bommel fight, and that's just because of the consistent A1 decreased accuracy. And then along that, you have the Perfect Veil to mitigate damage across the board for the rest of your team. And then you have reflect damage, which will come in handy just as passive damage. But yeah, I think this is a really good option, as it's going to be Spirit Affinity, so strong affinity against Bommel, along with the consistent A1. Obviously, people are using stuff like Annex if they have it, because Annex places a decreased accuracy for 3 turns. But if you're not fast enough, he still takes those extra turns and can wipe off decreased accuracy, getting a couple of debuffs through. But with Rimehide, you can consistently just A1 and have the decreased accuracy up. And honestly, you could turn off the other abilities if you really wanted to and just have him be a decreased accuracy bot. So overall, though, I think this champion is really going to be worth going for. Now, obviously, depending on the epics involved in fusing this champion, people might want to keep the epics over this champion. But I do think this, I think Rimehide's going to have a lot of applications in further content. I think they've been doing a very good job with some of the fusions and people finding uses for them. So overall, definitely think it's worth going for. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.